As a 17-year-old college student, I've always felt a bit disconnected from my family due to our clashing personalities and differing expectations. Even though I've worked hard to excel academically and earned a scholarship, I've never been able to gain their approval. My younger sister, the clear favorite, has always been the one to receive their praise and support. Over the years, I worked 2 part-time jobs and secured scholarships, managing to save $90,000 for my college education. This money wasn't just my financial safety net, it represented my independence and future. But my parents saw it differently. Recently, they informed me that my 22-year-old sister, who is unemployed, needed a new apartment in an upscale neighborhood. They expected me to give up my entire savings to help her, despite her lack of financial responsibility. Their demand was blunt and left no room for negotiation. They warned me that if I refused, I'd be disowned. They tried to justify this by insisting that family comes first and that I should support my sister without hesitation. I was overwhelmed by their unfairness and manipulation, initially left speechless by the weight of their demand. As I thought through my options, it became clear how wrong this was. Sacrificing my future for someone who hadn't shown the same dedication or responsibility wasn't fair. Though the idea of giving in for the sake of family peace crossed my mind, I realized I couldn't let my hard work and independence be taken so easily. Determined to protect myself, I quietly began securing my legal rights and moving my personal valuables to a friend's house, preparing for the worst-case scenario of being forced out of my family home. It was a terrifying prospect, but I knew I had to protect my future. I contacted my college's housing office to inquire about emergency accommodations. Although they didn't have immediate availability, they provided me with local resources that could help. It wasn't a complete solution, but it gave me a starting point. Armed with this information, I confronted my parents and made it clear, would not give up my savings. Their response was explosive. My father called me selfish and ungrateful, while my mother tearfully accused me of tearing the family apart over a little money. If it was so trivial, I wondered why they couldn't cover the cost themselves. My sister, Ellie, lashed out, claiming I was ruining her life by denying her happiness. The household quickly became toxic. My parents either guilt-tripped me or gave me the silent treatment. My father would make hurtful comments when I was around, and my sister acted as though I'd betrayed her. Despite the emotional manipulation, I stood firm and continued preparing to leave, quietly moving my belongings to my friend's place. Then, things escalated. I discovered my parents had tried to access my bank account to take my savings without my consent. Thankfully, I had anticipated this and already secured my funds by closing the account. When they realized their plan had failed, their anger exploded. My father accused me of destroying our family, while my mother lamented, asking how I could do this to them. I didn't back down. I told them they'd crossed a line, and if they wanted me out, I'd leave, but not a single penny of my money would go to them. To ensure my side of the story was heard, I took to social media. I posted a detailed account of what had happened, including their demand for my savings, their threats, and even their attempt to access my bank account. I shared screenshots of their messages and the bank alerts as proof, tagging family and mutual friends to make sure the truth was known. The response was overwhelming. Most people supported me, criticizing my parents and sister for their actions. Some extended family members who had been unaware of the situation reached out, offering support. Though a few of my parents' friends tried to defend them, their voices were drowned out by the wave of criticism. News of the situation spread quickly, impacting my parents' social and professional lives. My father's colleagues began distancing themselves, and his work relationships became strained, while my mother found herself increasingly ostracized from her social circles. Ellie's plans for her new apartment also fell apart when the landlord caught wind of the controversy, leaving her furious and blaming me. But by that point, I was resolute, no longer concerned with their responses as they faced the consequences of their actions. The perfect family image they had so carefully maintained was shattered, a reflection of the choices they had made. After that intense confrontation, I moved in with a close friend who offered support. Although it wasn't an ideal living situation, it was a significant improvement from the toxic environment at home. Living on my own came with challenges, but the freedom to focus on my studies and plan my future, without the looming fear of being taken advantage of, was empowering. Unsurprisingly, my parents didn't take the situation well. They bombarded me with a mix of threatening and pleading messages, urging me to delete my public post and return home. They even tried to twist the story, claiming they were only trying to help Ellie through a tough time, but the truth was already out, and my decision to cut contact remained firm. I blocked them on all platforms and even consulted a lawyer about a restraining order in case they escalated further. It was a difficult but necessary step for my peace of mind. During this time, distant relatives reached out, offering support and expressing regret for not intervening sooner. My college, upon learning of my circumstances, stepped in to provide additional financial aid, which was a tremendous relief. The entire experience forced me to grow. I became more confident, self-reliant, and my academic performance improved dramatically now that the constant stress from my family was gone. I also began forming new friendships and building a solid support network. Looking ahead, I'm determined to achieve full financial independence, and I'm seriously considering permanently severing ties with my family. The cycle of toxicity needed to end, and I was committed to breaking it. I'm focused on building a future where I no longer have to fear the next betrayal. It's been 2 months since I first shared my story publicly. I'm incredibly grateful for the support and advice I received, which helped me navigate these difficult times. After moving out and going public, my life became a whirlwind of intense emotions and confrontations. My parents and Ellie reacted badly, alternating between angry outbursts and attempts at emotional manipulation. I stuck to my no-contact policy, though it wasn't always easy. About a week after I moved out, my mother unexpectedly showed up at my friend's place. Somehow, she had found out where I was staying. She was cheerful at first, pleading for me to come home and insisting they wanted to make amends. But it didn't take long before her tone shifted, blaming me for the family's suffering and saying Ellie's life was ruined because of my actions. It became clear that nothing had changed. I told her firmly to leave, threatening to call the police if she refused. She left, but not without claiming I was breaking her heart. Things escalated when my father tried contacting my college, attempting to find out my class schedule and whereabouts. Luckily, I had already informed the administration about my situation, and they didn't disclose anything. This violation of my privacy made me furious. Meanwhile, Ellie began showing up at places she knew I frequented, like the library and the coffee shop near campus, alternating between angry rants and desperate pleas for the money. These encounters reaffirmed that cutting them off was the right decision. My focus now is on creating a life free from the shadow of their expectations, a life that's truly mine. In the aftermath of leaving home, I had to make adjustments to my daily routine for safety, sometimes asking friends to accompany me to and from classes. About a month later, my aunt, my mom's sister, reached out, saying she wanted to talk. Though I was wary, I agreed because she had always been kind to me. We met in a public place, but I quickly realized she had been sent by my parents. They were waiting nearby, hoping to confront me. Feeling betrayed, I left immediately and blocked my aunt's number as well. The battle for the narrative continued on social media, where my parents attempted to paint me as a troubled child who had stolen from them and run away. While a few people believed their story, most saw through it. It was painful to watch family, friends, and distant relatives pick sides, but I knew I had done the right thing. My decision to move on was firm, and I was ready to build a future without their control. In the midst of everything, I was thankful for those who supported me. However, Ellie escalated the situation further by starting a GoFundMe campaign, claiming she was the victim of financial abuse and needed to escape a toxic family environment. Disturbingly, she twisted the story to paint me as the abuser. It was shocking, but I wasn't about to let it slide. I hired a lawyer, who helped me get the campaign taken down. Meanwhile, my parents threatened legal action, absurdly claiming I owed them for raising me and that they had a right to my savings. It was unsettling, so I sought legal counsel. My lawyer reassured me that their claims had no merit but advised me to keep documenting everything just in case. About 5.5 months after leaving home, I received a surprising email from William, Ellie's ex-boyfriend. He apologized for not reaching out sooner and offered his support. He revealed some unsettling truths about Ellie, including how she had repeatedly cheated on him with men who showered her with gifts and luxurious trips. Even more shocking, he told me Ellie had been fired from her last job for stealing, but my parents had paid off her employer to keep it quiet and avoid charges. Learning this enraged me. It confirmed the double standard my parents upheld, protecting Ellie while demanding I sacrifice my future. 3 months after I left home, I received a call from an unknown number. It was my grandfather, my dad's father. We hadn't been close, as he lived out of state, and our interactions were rare. He'd heard about the family issues from a cousin and wanted to hear my side. Initially, I was cautious, but his concern seemed genuine. He confided that he had his own strained history with my father and apologized for not being more present in my life. He even offered financial help if I needed it. I appreciated the gesture but told him I wanted to be independent. He respected my decision but left the offer open. Talking with my grandfather sparked curiosity about other estranged family members, so I reached out to a couple of cousins on my mom's side. One of them, Megan, shared her own unpleasant experiences with my parents and Ellie. She told me about a particularly distressing incident a few years ago when, during her tough divorce, she needed temporary housing. My parents initially agreed to help, but Ellie complained, and they quickly changed their minds. Megan was evicted from their home after just 5 days and had to couch surf until she found her own place. This revelation only deepened my frustration, confirming how selfish Ellie had always been, and how my parents had enabled her behavior at the expense of others. It was disheartening to learn how poorly they had treated other family members, all while expecting me to sacrifice everything for Ellie. Meanwhile, I was still dealing with my own housing challenges. I was staying with my friend's parents, who were kind and hospitable, but I knew it couldn't be a long-term solution. I began searching for an affordable apartment near my campus, but most were way out of my budget. During this time, I bumped into one of Ellie's friends at the grocery store. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying Ellie was depressed and it was all my fault. When I asked if she knew the full story, she admitted she only knew Ellie's side. After I shared my perspective, I saw doubt creep into her expression. It wasn't a huge victory, but it felt satisfying to have my side of the story heard. The next day brought more trouble. I received a call from my bank alerting me that someone had attempted to access my new account using my social security number. The bank flagged the activity as suspicious and blocked it. I was almost certain it was my parents. Shaken by their audacity, I filed a police report and froze my credit to protect my finances. It was clear they weren't going to stop, so I took further legal action. I revisited the lawyer I had previously consulted and started the process of obtaining a restraining order against my parents and Ellie. It felt drastic, but I had no choice. The day before the hearing, my mother called me in a panic, crying and begging me to reconsider. She claimed the restraining order would destroy our family. I calmly reminded her of everything they had done and ended the call. The hearing itself was tense. My parents and Ellie arrived with their lawyer, trying to portray me as an ungrateful, troubled child who had turned against a loving family. But I came prepared, armed with texts, emails, social media posts, and bank records as evidence. The judge saw through their facade and granted the restraining order. As I left the courthouse, Ellie approached me, looking disheveled and worn out. She started to apologize, but her expression quickly twisted into bitterness. She spat out that I had ruined everyone's lives. A friend stepped in to pull her away, and that was the last time I saw her. In the end, I knew I had made the right decisions to protect myself. It wasn't easy, but breaking free from my family's toxic grip allowed me to start building a future on my own terms, one free from their manipulation and control. Amid everything that was happening, I started looking for a part-time job to support myself. Juggling work and school was tough, but the sense of financial independence was incredibly empowering. That said, I won't deny that there were difficult moments, especially around the holidays, when I missed having a family, even a dysfunctional one. It's been about a year since it all unfolded, and while I'm still processing everything, I'm moving forward, thanks to the unwavering support of my friends and the kindness of others who reached out along the way. Not too long ago, I received an unexpected call from my uncle, my dad's brother, who I'd never been particularly close with. He seemed genuinely concerned and told me things had taken a turn for the worse for my parents and Ellie. Apparently, Ellie had gotten mixed up with some shady individuals and was now in serious trouble over unpaid debts. In a situation that felt almost too unbelievable, my parents, in a misguided attempt to help her, took out a second mortgage on their house to try and pay off her debts. But it wasn't enough. One night, the people Ellie owed money to showed up at my parents' house, leading to a chaotic scene that ended with the police being called and my dad in the hospital with a broken arm. Even after this, my parents continued to protect Ellie. They told the police it was a random break-in, but the truth quickly spread within the family. Shortly after the incident, my uncle reached out to fill me in on everything. Around the same time, I started receiving messages from my parents again. Against my better judgment, I unblocked them, thinking that maybe things had changed. But instead of accountability, they begged me to come home and help them, even going so far as to claim that if I had just given them the money in the first place, none of this would have happened. Their manipulation was clear, and I chose to ignore their pleas. During this chaos, I managed to save enough money to move out of my friend's place and into a more secure apartment. It was a little further from campus, but I finally had the peace of mind I'd been craving. Unfortunately, that peace didn't last long. Ellie, disregarding the restraining order, showed up at my new apartment, hysterical and begging for money, claiming her life was in danger. When I refused to help, she turned on me, accusing me of being responsible for her predicament. It was a terrifying encounter, and I immediately called my lawyer to discuss updating the restraining order to include my new address. I also informed my landlord and neighbors about the situation, just to be safe. As if that weren't enough, I later found out from other family members that my parents had been spreading rumors, claiming that I had introduced Ellie to these shady individuals and that I owed them money. Their lies caused some relatives to turn against me, and I started receiving hateful messages on social media, forcing me to block several people. Despite everything, this past year has also brought some much-needed positivity. I've made incredible friends who have become like family to me. We're even planning a celebration together, a reminder of the love and support I've found in them. Recently, I heard rumors that my parents are on the verge of losing their house to foreclosure. While a part of me feels sympathy, I also recognize that their actions led them to this point. It's a sobering reminder of how differently things could have turned out if they had respected my boundaries and treated me with fairness. As I continue moving forward, I'm deeply grateful for the support I've received. Your encouragement and solidarity have sustained me through the hardest of times, and I truly couldn't have made it this far without you all. Thank you for standing by me.